Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to have some Division 18 ranked online gameplay in the flyweight division using none other than the God of War himself, Figueiredo. And my god, this fight is just a perfect example of how to use him. It really showcases all his best tools, and obviously I try to use fighters how I use them, well, how they fight in real life, sorry. So I look to use similar punches, similar takedowns if they're a wrestler, similar submissions, etc. And the God of War versus Moreno, what a fight that was, and obviously that's coming up soon, I think. So I'm looking forward to that fight a lot, and we're gonna see what happens. So, like I said, it's Division 18 gameplay. I think I went on like a 3-fight losing streak from Division 20, so I was really looking to bounce back. And as you can see from the get-go, already working the leg, and we threw that left hook to the body. And if you watched their first fight, you saw that the hooks to the body, especially the left hook, I think it was from Figueiredo. Oh my god, it was causing so much damage, and it was beautiful. I mean, from the first fight, you could tell that there was a big power difference. But that being said, Moreno done a very good job. But I think Figueiredo does get it done this next fight. So yeah, in the first round, as you can see, I'm really trying to drain the body. I'm really targeting the body, and I'm targeting the legs also. But one thing with Figueiredo is his punch power is so, like, it just feels like he has a piston for a straight, and his hooks are so powerful. And you're going to see that later on in the fight that a jab is enough to put down your opponent. So I really love using him. I think I've uploaded gameplay of him before, but as of lately I've been using him, and he's just such a complete fighter. I mean, anywhere the fight goes, and off his back on the ground, he's a monster. That's one thing people don't realise. His top game's really good also. In the clinch, he's got that clinch submission, which people like to use a lot. But I avoid using that. But obviously, if that's something you do, then that's something you do. And he has that. His stand-up's unreal. Like I was saying, the power he has, he feels like he's got just under Cody Garbrandt power. Obviously, it's a different weight class, but if I was comparing him to someone in terms of punch power, it feels like a bit of a Cody Garbrandt. And as you can see, we're really pressuring my opponent here. Now we're starting to work the head a lot more, and wherever we can, I'm throwing that left to the body, and that's just gonna literally zap my opponent's stamina. And obviously Moreno has very good stamina, and he's a wrestler. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to force the wrestling exchange out of my opponent. I know my opponent's going to have to wrestle sooner rather than later, and I do not mind being on my back against Moreno. All you got to do is get your opponent's respect when they take you down. So if they take you down and they can control you for a whole round, they're not going to respect you, and they're going to constantly go for the takedowns. But if they take you down, you end up on top, you do a lot of damage, they're going to think twice about the takedown, because in their head they're going to have to think, right, do I want to get battered on the feet, or do I want to get battered on the ground? So yeah, as you can see, my opponent's clinching me here. I'm thinking he's going to go for the takedown, so I was denying the takedown, but he ends up just getting me towards the fence, and he doesn't take my back, which I found quite surprising, because obviously normally when you're a wrestler and you take someone towards the fence, you get their back, you drag them down to the ground. It's just the obvious thing to do. And there was a couple times throughout this fight that this round, sorry, that my opponent did, that you could see was looking for the takedowns and the clinch attempts. But overall, I'd say a very, very good first round. I know I definitely drained my opponent's stamina, and this is how you've got to use him. You've got to be the aggressor. You've got to be in their face. As you can see, when he fights in real life, he just marches forwards. He does not care the slightest about getting any damage done to him. He feels so powerful, and in real life, sorry, and that's exactly how you want to use him in the game. You don't really want to fear anything. I mean, his nickname's perfect, the God of War, because that's exactly what he brings to the fight. So as you can see, start round 2, we're already getting the better of these exchanges, and I'm really doing a lot of work to that body. As you can see, my opponent was looking for a takedown there, trying to throw leg kicks where possible just to rack up that damage. And my opponent gets the takedown here straight into half guard, which is a very dominant position for my opponent. And here we don't have the Kimura, which I was expecting, as my opponent fakes to the arm triangle. So yeah, we don't have the Kimura here, which I expected, because Figueiredo's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very, very good, because he does have the rubber guard, which is one thing that I think he's very underutilized in this game. The rubber guard is very effective. You get a couple denies off, and then that's it. You can either submit or take your opponent's. You can take your opponent back. I think you can get to side control, get to top mount. So yeah, as you can see, when my opponent got to side control, he went straight into full guard. I love that transition. It just saves a lot of work from going to half guard to full guard. You just do that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sweep, get them into full guard. So as you can see, my opponent's having relative success here on the ground. Done a little bit of damage through ground and pound. So here we go to the sprawl, because it's very hard to deny this animation. And here I'm going to be very, very patient. I don't think I move first. Let me see. I think I'm waiting to see what my opponent's going to do. And that's exactly what I do, and we get the reversal. So that was just about being patient. And now, this is where I was saying that you have to gain respect, and that's exactly what I'm going to look to do here. So I deny one transition, I deny another transition, and if you've not seen the video I've done about side control and crucifix, about how I dominate opponents there, you should check that video out. I'll try attach it, if I remember, in the top right corner of the video now. And as you can see, we've done a good job here of controlling my opponent. Now we're going to look to do damage ourselves and rack up the control time. And when using Figueiredo, you can really do this. I wouldn't advise, trying to be a takedown artist, but if you end up on top of your opponent, do not shy away from it and just, stand up, because here I can do a lot of damage and I can drain my opponent's stamina. And to be honest with you, if I went for a submission right now, if I went for the Kimura, which then transitions into the armbar, I would have won the fight 100%. But just because I wanted to showcase to you guys how I use him across, longer rounds, so you have more gameplay to go off of, I purposely avoided going for the submission, because as soon as I lock in a submission, a lot of people just quit. And I don't like posting gameplay where there's rage quits where I don't get a finish, because I don't think you can take much from it, if that makes sense. And I struggled after this fight. I think I had 3 more fights with him, and everyone was rage quitting. So I was trying to put together a longer showcase, but this is the only video I could get. So as you can see, round 2, my opponent had some success on the ground, but we got the better of the success. We done a lot more damage, and we drained a lot of stamina. And now this is where the head damage comes into play. So my opponent's head health is low now. It's not in a good position. My opponent's body health also isn't in a good position, and my opponent's lead leg is also not in a good position. So the 3 areas that shouldn't be in a good position, which are beneficial for me, are now not in a good position. And the head healths mainly come off that damage from the last round in side control, and that's why it's very important. And denying those transitions zapped a lot of stamina. So my opponent's going to have to force something here to gain my respect. And as you can see, my opponent goes for the takedown again. And it just shows that my opponent now, even though he knows what happened last round, he's going back to wrestling, because he knows if he's on the feet he's going to lose. So I get him into rubber guard, flip him over back to side control, and I was waiting for my opponent to move, and whenever it's a wrestler I feel like they always stack guard, so I was going to pre-deny that. But because my opponent was smart and wasn't moving, I just thought, right, just for me to get on top, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Just flip my opponent's side control. Now we're in the dominant position, so even though we didn't go for that takedown, because I wouldn't recommend going for takedowns unless you have to with Figueiredo, we end up from the better position. That's what you want. You want to turn a negative into a positive. And now look, I'm brutalizing my opponent here. So yeah, he's just so fun to use. His stand-up's great, and as you can see, the ground game, you get off some deniers, and this is just doing more damage to my opponent's stamina, more damage to my opponent's head health. And as you can see, we're just really controlling my opponent here. It's just a beautiful display, really, of how to control your opponent in side control. And my opponent's going to have to do something like really big to win this round or win the fight, because I haven't taken much damage. If you see my health stats, my opponent hasn't done really a great job of mixing it up. Should have been draining my body, really. And here I messed up. I knew my opponent was going to do that. I was meant to transition to another way, so I'd end up in side control, but My opponent does a good job there. And here I do a really bad job, if I remember correctly. I was trying to catch the punch and then transition, you know, when you block it and then you flip them over. But for some reason, I just couldn't do it, and I end up taking unnecessary damage here. So my opponent ends up having, you know, a small bit of success there. I wouldn't say anything major. And then my opponent's trying to posture up because there's not much left, so we're just slamming him with elbows. And just based off that round, I know that the finish is coming, and it's not far away. Another very extremely dominant round, and you know, the head health damage these last 2 rounds from the side control position has helped tremendously. So I've turned the negative from getting taken down into a massive advantage, because by him taking me down I got into side control and I've completely obliterated his head health, and I know I've done a number on his stamina. And psychologically, you know, it's not going to be good for my opponent that he's taken me down so many times and just hasn't been able to do much of it, and I've ended up getting the better of the interactions on the ground. And now this is where I really go in. As you can see, that left to the body is beautiful, mixing in the kicks now, and we've just, the straight is dropping him, the jabs are going to start dropping him soon. We push him towards the fence here, just looking to do a bit of damage with the knees, and off the clinch we get the beautiful right hook to stun my opponent. As you can see, even when I've got the head hurt or the body hurt, I'm still mixing it up, I'm still trying to be unpredictable. And that's one thing you've got to do when you have so many tools. You've still got to mix it up, because if a fighter catches onto a pattern, doesn't matter how hurt they are, they can still end up winning the fight. So I'm really going to the legs here, I'm using head movement really well, attacking the body, and I'm getting my opponent thinking like, what's next, what's going to come. But yeah, this is exactly how I'd use Figueiredo if you are going to try use him. Got to be very aggressive on the stand up, and when you do get taken down, look to get on top and then really brutalise the opponent from there. Got a crazy submission game as well, so if you're good at submissions, it's not going to take much for you to submit your opponent. Often or not, I actually win most fights with him via submission, but people just rage quit before I get to lock in the submission. So as you can see, beautiful movement there. I knew the takedown was coming, sway to left, and as you can see, my opponent's desperate for that takedown. Beautiful uppercut to finish the fight. So that's the video for today. Thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, please comment below on what you'd like to see. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, comment and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time.